What's up, guys? It's your boy JV Gaming here with my man MSU. What's up, MSU?
What's going on, JV? Hey, man, how are you feeling? Are you feeling good?
Dude, I'm feeling good.
Not just for
Feeling
the
real
show,
good.
not for just this show. Episode 2, we're on October 20th, but man, I mean, World Series, going to the World Series. Just last week, we were talking about, you guys were about to start the ALCS. We were talking about the sweep of the Red Sox. I mean, just how are you? I mean, this is awesome, right? It's just amazing.
It's a good time to be a fan in Cleveland, that's for sure, man. I had a feeling that they can do it, but the way that they've done it, one loss so far in the playoffs, 8-1.
Andrew Miller just mowing down people. I mean, it's been incredible. You've had timely hitting. I mean, we were just talking a little bit before we got on the air. I mean, you guys have the lowest batting average ever for an AL champion going into the World Series. I mean, that's
Right.
I mean, to me, the Indians are playing the best baseball out of the remaining now 3 teams left. But the way you guys have been able to do it in terms of manufacturing runs, doing the little things right with your bullpen, getting quality innings from starters that, like Tomlin and Bauer before, gushing blood, and just having guys and really stitching, I say that in quotes, stitching wins together throughout this playoffs has been just something that I think every baseball team can really look to when, maybe the bats aren't going well right now. Maybe the offense is a little lackluster, but that's how you put together a championship. That's how you put together wins when you're in a slump and you're trying to be in a tight division race. So just the way that they've done it and having Tito Francona manage this ball club has been absolutely incredible. And that's just for me from an outside fan. I know that you can speak even more against it. So the floor is really yours on that, bud.
No, absolutely. Like I said, we were talking about it last week. They don't do anything that's very sexy. Nothing really jumps off the page at you as far as the Indians are concerned. They don't have the sexy lineup 1 through 9.
Yep.
They play team baseball.
Yep.
Then I've been comparing them all year to the San Francisco Giants, the Kansas City Royals, just small ball defense and bullpen, and that's really a good recipe when it comes to playoff baseball. And then that's something that they're really excelling at right now. Excelling at.
Yeah, and we all know, if we're baseball fans, and most of you guys out there are baseball fans, you know that it's not always the best team that's winning in the playoffs. It's whoever's playing the best baseball at the time and can get hot and can keep the bats hot, and then manufacture those runs when the offense isn't ready to go. And they really have kind of hit all the pillars of good baseball and good just team play all the way around throughout this playoffs. And I've been really super impressed. And I think they're going to be a very, very hard out with whatever the NL has representing, whether it's the Cubs or the Dodgers. So
right, and as we can see, Cubs are currently ahead 1-0 right now.
Mm-hmm.
Even if the Cubs win today, because I think they kind of had the momentum with Lester on the mound.
Yep.
The Dodgers are gonna throw Kershaw and the lefty they had the other day. I can always forget his name. Who they got from
Rich Grimm?
Rich Hill, yeah.
Rich Hill, yep.
The Cubs have been struggling against the lefty, so
yeah.
Even if a Cubs win today, I don't think the series is over because Kershaw is going to get his, and Rich Hill he's pitched well this playoffs.
Absolutely, and let's kind of get into just that real quick, because obviously that's fresh on our minds from going back out to LA, in which the Cubs have basically lost home field advantage in this 2-3-2 setup. Really an interesting thing going out there. Rich Hill obviously goes. The Cubs get shut out in back-to-back games. Obviously, Kershaw pitches the gem in Chicago, and then Rich Hill goes out and really just shuts down the Cubs, and all the momentum shifted to LA. And then you're having this really what I thought would be a must-win game for the Cubs last night. And the Cubs come out and the bats light up. And it was very.
It kind of happened really funkily.
It happened.
It was like a bloop single, a bunt, and it woke him up.
Very weird. Obviously, Sobris gets on with the bunt cheeser for the win. Gets on. They get that bloop in the blast, and they come back in to score the run. And I think honestly, and we're going to talk about this in depth. I think honestly, if Adrian Gonzalez does not get called out at home plate before that happens, I think that game it gets decided in a
Oh,
completely different manner than what happened last night. I think it absolutely changes the dynamic because not only are the Cubs gripping the bat really tightly already to begin with, now they're thinking, we haven't scored in the last 2 games. We've been shut out. And now the Dodgers got a 1-0 lead on us. I mean, holy crap! What are we gonna do? Like, what's gonna
with
happen?
guys on
So,
first and third, there's only going to be one out.
yep,
Pitcher
exactly.
was really struggling to find a strike zone. That game was it would have been 100% different.
Yep.
And people are going to make the argument, well, that one run isn't going to be the difference in a 10-2 game. But I really think it played a huge difference. Kind of sucked the life out of the stadium.
Yep.
The Dodgers were in the middle part of their order, and they were just absolutely seeing the ball that inning. Everything, even their outs, they were hitting hard outs. Those first 2 innings.
It was just so strange the way that all went down. And yes, you're 100% right. Looking back on it, hindsight's 2020. You see that the Cubs win by 10-2. Obviously, not decided by that one run, so no one's going to talk about it today. But I truly do believe that ends up affecting the outcome of the game in some certain way, just because you're no longer fighting that uphill battle. It's just a different mentality for a batter to go up to the plate and see it's 1-0. We've been shut out the last 3 games. Here we go again, right? Here we go again.
Exactly.
So let's talk about that, JV. And I know you wanted to really touch on that pretty in depth today about the review system and the replay system and what's been going on in baseball throughout the playoffs, and not just last night with the Adrian Gonzalez being called being called out on a play that was called out already, or was he called safe? I forget.
He was called out.
He was called out. Yep.
And as soon as he got to the plate,
Yep.
Adrian Gonzalez, he thought that he had beat the tag. He popped up. He looked at the dugout and he said, challenge a play.
Yep.
So they went ahead and challenged, and on the replay, everybody in the crowd, everybody knew in that, at least thought in that stadium, and especially the announcers on
you could definitely
Fox Sports
tell. You could definitely tell because Contreras,
his hand beats it.
Yeah, Contreras hits him in the chin because Jason Hayward makes a lollygag throw from right field. The defensive specialist that the Cubs are paying $130 million for, who you can't hit himself out of a paper bag right now, lollygags to throw home because Adrian Gonzalez is obviously not the fastest runner at the plate. But Contreras turns around. He has to move off the plate. He can't really defend it. Turns around, tags him on the chin. And on the replay, initially I thought he was out, but on the replay, he had a perfect slide in which his hand went between the catcher and basically in the middle between his 2 arms, and Contreras hit him on the chin. And I'm like, this is definitely a play that I can see conclusive video evidence of Adrian Gonzalez being safe. They're going to overturn this call. It wasn't anything that I saw that was like, oh, there's no way this play is going to stand because there's just no conclusive video evidence that I can rule it the other way. To me, it was cut and dry that Adrian Gonzalez was going to be called safe on that play. So,
and what stood out to me is when the glove comes and he makes the tag on Adrian Gonzalez, his face kind of smacks backwards.
Yep,
so
exactly.
The
Yep.
glove hits his head backwards. So that's when he makes the tag.
Yep.
So you already have that view. So once his face starts moving backwards, that's when the tag's made. But you can definitively see, and there's pictures that prove it, that his hand is over the plate before his head starts to go backwards. And first thing I did today, I texted you. I said, hey, I want to talk about the MLB replay system, especially when it comes to the playoffs. And, they're giving coaches an extra timeout or an extra replay challenge in the playoffs.
Yeah.
And, what's really bothering me is like, let's say we have these stolen bases or these, somebody's trying to, stretch a single into a double. They're going into second base. They beat the throw. They beat the tag. But they slide through the base and, you got about a hair length of a gap.
JV, for those of you that listen, he's showing me the hair length, and it's a small hair length. So.
It's a small hair. It's about a quarter of an inch, and they'll go to the replay booth and they'll zoom in on the shot, and if you're telling me that MLB can go in there and they can find quarter of an inch slot of this guy coming off the bag, there is no reason why they couldn't have proven why he shouldn't have been out at home. I thought it was bogus. I'm not going to come up with these conspiracy theories like all the Dodgers fans are like,
there's so many.
We need to see the Cubs in the World Series. It's all about the money. It was first couple innings of the game, it was a 0-0 ball game at the time. So I'm not going to sit here and be like, they did it to change the game, because at that point it didn't really change the game as much as you would think.
Yeah. I definitely don't subscribe to the conspiracy theorists, but I do live in Chicago. So, most of the bias that I'm going to hear is going to be on, the Cubs, we never get anything going for us. We haven't been in the World Series in 108 years, yada, yada, yada. But I still, even just being as objective as possible, I definitely didn't think that was a conspiracy theorist. I wish with the replay system right now and the technology that we have, like, it just seems like baseball was the last true sport to implement a replay system. If you remember, the NHL was doing replay for the longest time, figuring out if guys were doing goalie interference or if there was a high stick deflecting a goal into the net, any of that sort of stuff. They were really the first ones to implement the replay. And then obviously the Big Ten was in college football, was one of the very first replays in football. And it was
all of football.
And it was a challenge-based system and all this other stuff. And so the Big Ten implemented it and was fairly successful. And then it implemented nationwide to the NCAA football. And then it obviously moved up to pro football. And then finally the MLB was, as you remember, they were really pushing against it. They didn't want to do anything to slow down the game. Obviously, viewership is down for baseball. It's already a long enough.
A lot of that did fall on Bud Selig too, who he's stuck in that old school mentality, and he couldn't see into today's age of technology.
And Manfred's
it caught up to baseball.
Yeah, and Manfred's better, but it still could be so much better right now. I really do not like the fact, first off, what are the guys that are the replay guys in MLB actually doing? Do they just hire 3 guys to stand there all game and then trot out with the headsets and call New York?
I don't like this whole New York thing. I think if baseball wants to do it right, they need to have people at the stadium, like 2 more umpires maybe, or have a command center, have something where they don't need to call into New York to kind of make it truer.
I know
especially for a playoff game, there's only 2 games going on right now. It's not like 30 games.
But we do have best in class settings, because that is an implemented standard amongst the other big 4 sports, right? There's the command center that they have for the NBA. The NBA is taken care of by a New York based office for every single regular season in the game. And I'm kind of unfamiliar, but I'm not sure how many NBA games are going on a night, but it's got to be close to the amount of regular season baseball games. And there's one command center that's handling every single call that needs to be looked at for replay stuff. Obviously, there's less replays in basketball. It's one of the very few replay settings. Football does the exact same thing. They have the Los Angeles office that does all the replays and all the overturns and all the rulings and looks at every single touchdown and every single turnover. So they have best in class settings to do all this stuff. It's very odd to me that they don't have the implemented language that football does or that basketball does, where is there I still have yet to really hear someone say what it means, what has to happen for a call to get overturned in baseball. What has to happen? What do they have to see? I don't know any of the rules. It's like playing in the NFL, and I have no clue what Roger Goodell is going to try and suspend me for, because I just don't know the rules. I don't know the regulations. So I really wish, as a fan and as I'm sure a player would want to know, what's a manager going to take to get this call overturned? Is it indisputable visual evidence? Because if it is, then to me last night was an absolute gap. And the best part is with the NBA, they would come forward, and I'm not sure if they're doing this year, where they basically were offering up settings last year, and they were displaying basically when they got calls incorrect in the late games of the NBA series, right? It was a lot of flack for the NBA. They were coming out and saying, we blew this call, or we blew that call, or we made the right call here, and we stood by our referees. I really wish baseball would have either come out and said, you know what, we stand by the umpires. They saw that they felt they couldn't see indisputable visual evidence to overturn the Adrian Gonzalez call, and guess what, we stand by them. Or, you know what, we blew it. But it's just not happening. So
yeah, I would definitely like, they go to the replay, they put on their headsets, they take the headsets off. I would like to know, what was the call? What did New York really have to say? And if the play is safe, or if he's out, announce why. They already have these headsets on, switch the button to the PA and
Yep.
make the announcement, because
Yep.
then you got fans all wondering, well, why? Well, if you can give the fans a good reason, you're gonna,
No.
half of them could sit there and be like, okay, well, here's the call, but instead,
Yep.
they're kind of kept out of the loop, and it just brings out a lot of frustration. Like Adrian Gonzalez yesterday, he was called out. What do you think he was thinking about for the next, inning and a half?
And
Why?
you're exactly right. They don't even say anything. At least in the NFL, they say there wasn't visual evidence to overturn the call. The play stands. Everyone
Right.
moves, right? Last night, what do? They stuck his arm up. He's out. Like, give me something more than that. You gotta be in a time and place in which baseball is really one of the least watched favorite sports of America right now. You got to give me something a little bit more to keep me on my the edge of the seat and to actually make me feel like I'm involved in the game. If you just keep doing that sort of stuff, it's just gonna kill me. So that's really our take, and who knows what they're gonna go through from here in terms of potentially automating the umpires' balls and strikes. So, be very interested to see if there's any movement on that, because I don't trust baseball right now to implement anything that's technology based right now. I don't.
Right.
I don't.
Nothing is worse than the stat track or the balls and strikes, square that they bring up on the TV, where the pitch will come in, the announcer will be like, yeah, he just missed, but you can't trust that box. People are different heights, it's a different angle. Some stadiums you're here, some stadiums the camera angle's coming from there.
And we're all watching it from an offset angle. So pretty much everything that I'm seeing as a fan, I'm like, well, that's a strike. Oh, that's a ball. Unless a guy almost gets hit, I have no idea if it's a ball or strike. Right?
You ever go to a baseball game, you're sitting on one of the baselines, and you're way out there. You're by the right field.
Yeah, you're in the right field.
And the pitch comes in, and the fan stands up and be like, it's right there. Like, how the
And we all know that next
week,
Tuesday when JV's in the stands in right field and BFE and he's all the way out there, you can bet your ass that JV's going to be right there. Like, that was a ball. That was, and he has no idea. They have no idea.
Let's switch topics though, man. Let's get off the topic.
Yep.
Little update on the game. We got 1-0 still here in the bottom of the third, but we're gonna get into something new here, and it's pretty much a much talked about topic, something that's become a huge issue in college sports, and that is student athletes and whether or not they should be paid or not. Bunch of different angles, bunch of different arguments that people can bring up. But I know it's something that you really wanted to talk about. You reached out to me. You let me know. You kind of let me know this is what you were going to get into today. So kind of get the ball rolling. What do you have to say?
And really, I mean, obviously this has been a divisive topic for a very long time, and I'm not going to be able to really pick a side tonight. So if you're thinking that I'm going to side with one way or the other, I'm not, because honestly, I don't know how to solve this problem at this point. It's way above my pay grade. I have no idea what's going to happen. I think there needs to be a happy medium, and I'm not sure what that medium is. So to really get it started, I mean, everyone saw this weekend, Nigel Hayes, a senior forward for the Wisconsin Badgers basketball team, was at game day this past weekend for the Ohio State-Wisconsin game, which was a fantastic college football game, but that's a side note.
Very good game.
Congratulations, OSU, for a great victory. But Nigel Hayes was at game day with a sign that was basically saying, broke college student, please send money to this Venmo account that he had on the sign. And it was all the rage all over social media. It sparked this, outcry from both sides of the party on whether or not they need to be paid, whether or not they shouldn't be paid, be happy with college education, yada, yada, yada. And to me, the initial reaction for me is seeing that, and the initial reaction that I've always had when it comes to that stuff, being a regular person who has gone to school, who has student loans, is that, Nigel, hey, shut up and just take your scholarship, which is probably worth $60,000 to $65,000, because I think he's an out-of-state college kid. Take the stipend, be happy you're getting an education, because not everyone gets a shot at doing that sort of thing. But at the same time, I think there's multiple different angles. Nigel Hayes is a very special case because he's one of the best players in the country. He could have gone pro last year and been drafted and been making millions right now. But that's not every other college student, right? That's your atypical. Out of all the college athletics that are at a school, Nigel Hayes is in the top 1% of the student athletes at his school, and the top 1% in all of the college athletes that are playing basketball that have the opportunity to make a living playing a game. And at the end of the day, they are playing a game. But to me, the NCAA needs to figure out a better balance, because these guys, yes, they're making a stipend. Yes, they're getting college paid for, but that's it. They can't even get a job. I actually learned this past week that as a student athlete, if you get a job, you can only make $2,000 before you're unable to make any more money. $2,000 for a whole entire year is the maximum allowable salary that a college student, a college athlete can do. That's just ridiculous. If you go on any college campus, if you go on the best Ivy League campuses out there, the MITs, the Browns, the Harvards, the Stanfords, all these kids are wicked smart, and everyone's creating their own business. Everyone's creating their own thing. They're all getting paid to freelance work, to do internships, things like that. And you're telling me that as a college athlete, a student athlete can't go and get a job, but he can go get a job and earn $2,000? Are you freaking kidding me? Not to mention that these guys are already working 40 plus hours a week with their gym, with the studies, with practices, traveling. I mean, that's just ridiculous. And then I think to the other guys, right? So if Nigel Hayes, let's say he gets a salary, right? Let's say he gets offered $100,000 a year to go play for the University of Wisconsin, right? He's not getting any money anymore for out-of-state tuition, right? Out-of-state tuition is $60,000 right there. He's got to pay that out of pocket for himself, 100K, right? So on 100K with taxes, he's probably going to end up collecting around $72,000. Okay. And now you're telling me he has to spend 60,000 of it on room and board, and now he has $12,000 to live on for the year. I don't know about you, JV, but I can't live on $12,000 for a year. What's it to say?
I can have a good month where I can go through $12,000 in college.
What are you telling me? A D1 athlete, a guy that's potentially going to go play at the highest of high levels, has to live on $12,000? So to me, that's not the answer. You can't just say, go spend $100,000. And then you're looking at the college athletics that are at the school, like field hockey or swimming or things you never even hear about, right? That are they going to be offered $100,000? Sure as hell are not, because they're not making any money. A lot of football programs aren't actually bringing in any revenue. They're actually in the red, right? And now you're going to tell everyone else that, hey, our star player is going to go get the $300,000 and a foot soldier is going to go get $40,000. I mean, to me, that's just ridiculous, right? So I think there needs to be a happy medium in between that. I'm really not sure what it is. I think there needs to be a way for college students to, or college student athletes to make money off their merchandise, off their name, if they're good enough to do that. Because I think that for the guys that are foot soldiers that are probably not going to go pro, they're going to go pro in something other than sports, like Enterprise always says, because every single college student athlete that doesn't go pro ends up working at Enterprise somehow. For all those other kids.
Is that a real thing?
I have no idea, probably. But I mean, all these other student athletes, you need to think about these guys. You need to think about the swimmer who has no shot to go make millions of dollars, okay? But at the same time, she needs to be able to have a way to pay for a college education, because it's some way, you know what, that's the only way that she has an opportunity to open up those doorways, right? For Nigel Hayes, he's going to be a millionaire next year. He could have gone pro last year if he really wanted to. I don't have that much sympathy for him. I think it's a sham that he can't go make money off his own name, when I know that the Wisconsin store has probably Nigel Hayes jerseys without the name on the back. They're making money off them. I think he should be able to
so much money.
If he can get endorsements, if he can do that sort of thing, I think it helps college athletics, because it keeps guys in school. It keeps guys from actually figuring out, okay, are they student athletes, or are they just athletes, right? I think that keeps that sort of amateurism level there that people want to romanticize with, which personally I don't care. I already know that student athletes, they're athletes. They're not student athletes. I just saw Ben Simmons tweet yesterday about the political debate about how he never ended up attending class because he went to class. He was eligible for the fall semester, didn't have to go be eligible for the spring semester in order to play basketball. So he just didn't go to class. So to me, anyone that makes the argument that these guys need to be student athletes first, the guys that want to go pro, they're athletes, right? They're not student athletes. So
they're there they're there to complete the process of doing.
They're not there to play school, to quote Cardell. So I mean, that's the way that I think about that sort of thing.
For those who may not know, and I'm just not reading this. It's not like I knew this off the top of my head, but the NCAA last year made just under $1 billion in revenue. So the money is there. They're making so much money, and obviously they're making it because of these student athletes. But the issue is in a lot of, especially for these D1 students, they can't work, or most of them aren't able to work because, like you said, you have to put in the hours.
There's
of practice.
No way. How could you?
You have the off season. You have to stay in shape. Not only that, but you're going to class full time.
Yep.
How do you expect these kids to actually go get a job and then be successful in school and on the field when performing whatever?
And not only that, the best of the best are being steered into classes that are underwater basket weaving, right? Like nothing that's substantial to help their future, right? Because at the end of the day, the schools know that they are not going to make money off you if you can't hit a 3-point shot at the end of the game to win, right? So I mean, like, I struggle with it in terms of what is the acceptable way to do. I don't think a salary is the right way to do it because I think that really kind of opens up a can of worms that I don't want to go down in terms of whether or not, if you're paying them a salary, then what's the point of them being at the school to have education? Become a farm system for every single major sport, right? If
you're just going to see more and more issues,
it's just going to be more and more issues.
Of the sport.
To me, I think there's a happy medium in terms of, can you give these kids more of a stipend so that they can travel home, that they aren't feeling like they're being totally ripped off, even if it is increasing the stipend from $60,000 of room and board and college education, and then pocketing the stipend, and then another $40,000 on top of that. To me, I think that would be totally fine. I think that would solve some of the problems, probably not for the really, really good kids, but I'm not worried about the really, really good kids. I'm worried about the everyday foot soldier. I'm worried about the sports that aren't making money already, like swimming, like field hockey, like all that sort of stuff. But I'm worried about those guys and hoping that they have a future outside of this and that they can actually live like a normal college student while they're there, while they're being a student athlete, right? So it's a topic that's going to be discussed ad nauseum for the next few years until the NCAA makes some sort of ruling. And we all know that the ruling that the NCAA will have will be like, yep, they're student athletes. Sorry, they're not going to be able to do anything. And I think that, I hate it when you say, well, there's nothing better we can do. That just means that you're not looking for a solution to help solve this problem. You're just part of the problem. So I think the NCAA needs to find something. Nigel Hayes brings up a very good point. I really do like Nigel Hayes as a player. I've always respected him, and I feel like he speaks from the heart and uses his mind when he opens his mouth. So I hope they come up with something that can be beneficial for both parties. But my hope for them that actually happens is very, very small.
Yeah, I don't see anything happening too severe. The only thing, like you said, I only see them raising some kind of stipend. The issue that you run into, though, is there's going to have to be a difference between a Power 5 conference, Division I, and the low-level, where is that difference?
Yep.
And then you're going to have a shift in recruit. It's a whole mess.
And you even saw it last year. Like, a lot of these D1 programs, like UAB, right, close the doors in their football program because it takes a lot of money to compete at a very high level. These guys have to, the amount of money that these guys are bringing in are going right out the door in order for them to compete at a high level and to entice guys to complete. And at that point, it's like, you're like, screw it. I'm not making any money. I'm not helping the kids. I'm giving them a lackluster support system. I'm not giving them the healthcare or the student or the student resources that they need. I can't do this anymore. I'm shutting my doors on it. And it's scary to think that if they have to raise the stipend for that sort of thing, what happens to all the other sports that these people, like women's golf or women's field hockey or swimming and diving and things like that, track and field, that that aren't making any money. I went to a Big Ten school at Michigan State. You could walk into a soccer game for free as a student, right? And as a fan of the program, you didn't even have to pay money to get a ticket. You know that they're spending millions of dollars to support that team, but they're not making absolutely any money off of it. So as soon as you put the NCAA comes in and says you must pay these guys this, not only the education and room and board stipend, and then you have to give them even more money. What happens to all those other guys too? So
Exactly.
it's just a very, very difficult, tricky situation. And I just don't think, I think everyone that says that just pay the student athlete and be done with it is very, very short-sighted way of thinking. And I think that anyone that says they went to school for a reason, they need to be students first, I think that's being very short-sighted too. So I just wanted to kind of bring to light my idea about it in terms of that I don't think there's an easy situation or an easy change to be done, but there needs to be a change that happens in the future. And it needs to happen a lot sooner than later, I think.
Right. And that's the issue, is it's so much harder than what people would think.
Yep.
Everybody, the normal person's perspective is, well, the money's there, just pay him. It's harder than that, but
yep, exactly.
You can go on for hours and hours about this topic, and obviously it's been much talked about and debated anyways. But let's get into the NFL, man.
Holy cow!
I don't want to say a huge week, because
I thought it was. I mean,
I just think it has been a very odd season to this point. We have teams who we thought we were going to see in the playoffs who don't have a combined 4 or 5 wins, and we got teams that are coming out of nowhere, like we talked about last week, the Vikings. I mean, crazy week. And I just want to start off by talking about how big of a shift we are seeing in the AFC North, where you would think that used to be one of the best divisions in football. You would have the Bengals, the Steelers, and Ravens every single year.
Yep.
The winner of this division might only win 8 games.
What about the Browns, bud?
I don't. They're not a football team.
They're not a football team.
No, I love my Browns.
Yeah.
Damn, it's gonna be rough for the next couple years.
0-6. But I mean, just start off with a game right out of the division in terms of the Steelers. Okay, you lose Big Ben for
which they thought was going to be a week.
A torn meniscus. All right, the same injury that Adrian Peterson is missing the whole season and potentially back for the playoffs. Torn meniscus for Big Ben Roethlisberger. Getting their doors blown off by arguably one of the worst teams in football, the Miami Dolphins, who haven't looked like any semblance of a football team all year. They go into Miami and they absolutely get shell-shocked. Not only that, they lose their true leader, Big Ben, with a torn meniscus, and we really don't know. I mean, they say he's back in 2 to 4 weeks. I know Ben's a tough guy, and I know quarterback is not as demanding of a position as a running back is, like Adrian Peterson, but I just don't see a possible way that the guy's back in 5 weeks, unless they took the meniscus out, which I know that if they don't just surgically repair it, like I know that they did with APs, if they just rip out the whole meniscus, which to me it sounds horrible, like you're never going to walk again.
And that can have huge.
So you lose Big Ben, and then not only that, you're coming off a terrible loss, and then to top that all off, you got to go play the Patriots. Thank God the game is at Heinz Field. Otherwise, I would say take the Patriots plus the over on any sort of imagination, because they are just going to have Pittsburgh's number and dominate them. But honestly, I was super shocked. I said last week, right on this podcast, that Le'Veon Bell was about to have a get-right game for 3 touchdowns. I really don't know what the Steelers are doing. They fed Le'Veon, I think he had 9 carries at the half, which
makes no sense.
Okay, he's the best football player potentially in the NFL, and you get the guy 9 carries in the first half.
They didn't even use him in the passing game very much.
And they really didn't. And it was just very odd. And then you lose your leader. So to me, that was one of the biggest shocks all weekend. And you know what? To speak about divisions, not the NFC South, but the AFC South, we looked at my power rankings. I'm looking at my power rankings right here. I got the Vikings number 1. I got the Patriots number 2. And then I have Falcons, Seahawks can really flip-flop between 3 and 4 after having a fantastic game this past Sunday. And then number 5, I got the Cowboys right there. But after that, I was talking to JB off the air before we got on here tonight. I was like, I'm trying to figure out what I'm going to say for the top 10 of the NFL. And honestly, after that, every single person can have holes in it. Like, I think the Bills are okay, but they lost.
They're just not contenders. They're not a contender. They're a contender to the slide into a playoff berth, maybe, but they're not going to win a playoff game.
So what do we actually think that the Super Bowl like potential? Like, I think the Vikings can win a Super Bowl. I definitely think the Patriots can. I think the Falcons can certainly win a Super Bowl, right? I think the Seahawks can win a Super Bowl as long as the offensive line stays good and Russell Wilson actually gets healthy. Because after coming out of the bye week, if I'm a Seahawks fan coming out of the bye week, I watched the whole Falcons Seahawks game this past weekend, and he looked worse this week than he did the previous weeks before he's dealing with that high ankle sprain, that knee problem too.
Do you think they're going to sit him ever?
No, they're not going to, because Pete Carroll's a crazy person. I mean, Pete Carroll thinks that this is college football and every single game matters still, and Pete Carroll decides we're not going to sit him.
So they're sitting with they got a 2-game lead here in the loss column. They play it's I don't want to say a weaker division, but it's just not looking like what we thought it was going to be.
Yep.
If you can get them around the bye, give them a week or so off, maybe.
Well, they already had their bye. They came out of their bye last week.
Right, but what I'm saying, why didn't they use their bye and rest them after? You could have gave them 3 weeks off.
Pete Carroll is Pete Carroll's a crazy person. I love him as a coach. I think he's a great kind of coach. I mean, but honestly, I'm unsure of what they're actually going to do with them. I mean, obviously, you'd have to start the rookie and Trevon Boykin from, I believe, TCU from last year is a rookie that they drafted, and I think
looked pretty good in the preseason, but
and he came in for a couple plays when he got hurt. But I'm having a tough time and really deciding what's going to happen in the NFL, because as much as we like to say that, like, oh, we're midway through the season, all that stuff, it's really, to me, it's still very early in the season, right? We're not even at the end of October quite yet. Once we get into mid-November, I really start thinking that some of these guys hit their stride. And, people were already talking about it. Mike McCarthy today, who is an absolutely Looney Tune lately, was talking about how these guys don't get enough time in pads, don't get enough time in the offseason, all these hours with the PA, all this stuff that they've negotiated with the contract, that they don't get enough time to actually get themselves in shape and be ready to put a good product on the field. And I partially agree with them, because if you look at this, they have 4 preseason games, and the starters play maybe a total of a half.
It's probably a total like a game.
Maybe like a game, yeah, but like, is it really real speed game? No. And then they get to week 1 and they wonder why they have all these penalties and the product on the field looks like total crap, and they have all these injuries and all this stuff, because these guys are putting them into shape for the first 7 weeks of the season, right? So the NFL, to me, like, I have no idea what's going to happen. I do know, to me, I think the Vikings, I think the Patriots, and I think the Falcons are really in a class of their own. The Falcons have kind of gone through the gauntlet this past couple of weeks, and playing the Seahawks and playing what I thought was a good Carolina team, which is not a good Carolina team, and playing the Broncos, who I know is still a very good defensive team. They went through that gauntlet already, and they came out very successful and almost went 3-0, if not for a questionable call at the end of the game against Julio, with potentially a pass interference game at the end of that game. I think the Falcons are a very good football team, but really, to me, those 3 teams are really the guys that I would say are true Super Bowl contenders, and everyone else has got to show me something in the upcoming weeks before you're getting up into that top 5 of my power rankings, at least from now.
I'll give you my my top 5.
Okay.
I'm gonna have the Patriots number 1. What they did without Tom Brady was unbelievable. Now they got Tom Brady, they got Gronk. James White looks to be coming into form here.
And don't forget,
who knows if they get Deion Lewis back? Yep. I mean, that's just going to be scary, and I think their defense is going to improve every week.
Yep. Dante Hightower played the most snaps this past week than he has all season long. Dante Hightower is an absolute game changer on that defensive front 7. So, yeah, definitely agree on that.
And then I'm going to take the Vikings at number 2. Best defense in the NFL. You can make any argument you want. From what I've seen, that defense has just come into its own. Best defensive football. And I just think Sam Bradford's going to get better and better the more he learns the playbook and gets acquainted with that offense. So I got them at number 2.
Yep.
Then I got the Dallas Cowboys number 3.
Wow, 3.
At number 3. The offense, if they can get Dez Bryant back, it is going to be.
He's coming back. He's coming back after the bye.
You know what I mean? If they can get him back and he can start staying on the field, getting his act together, performing like we know he's capable of, that running game, Ezekiel, it's going to get better and better and better. and that offensive line. Dak Prescott looks to be playing well, and then if they can get Tony Romo back, Tony Romo may be playing with the best team he's ever had if he sees the field. If he sees the field, and that defense is played up to par. So I got them at number 3.
The biggest surprise for me personally about the Dallas Cowboys has been that defense, and I think it really starts with Sean Lee. This is one of the healthiest Sean Lee has ever been. Has missed a lot of games in his career with knee problems. He's really, even though
this is always something that he's been capable of doing, but he's never been able to do it because of, like you said, his injuries have just plagued his career.
That secondary has played pretty well. I'm very surprised at how well that defense has actually come along. And
you think they're going to come back down to earth, or you think this is real?
It's really, really hard for me to judge that right now. After rewatching the Cowboys Green Bay game this past weekend, I came away absolutely impressed with the way that their team actually came out and played. But if I look at their schedule, I'm really hesitant to say, have they actually really played anyone? They played the Giants that first week, and they lose to the Giants on Terrence Williams' boneheaded play in which he doesn't go out of bounds. They played the Redskins, which obviously they beat the Redskins, but Kirk Cousins was still trying to find his rhythm, and he's played much better coming into the last couple of the weeks. They play the Bears, who I think are probably one of the top 5 worst franchises right now. They play the Niners, who are definitely one of the worst franchises, and then they played the Bengals, who they absolutely demolished the Bengals at home on their home field. And then they go to Green Bay. So I think we'll learn a lot. I'm looking at their schedule right now. They play the Vikings in week 13, so that's a huge game. But other than that, I mean, you got the Eagles, the Browns, the Steelers, the Ravens, the Redskins again.
You don't see many losses on there.
You don't see a lot of losses.
That was really what sparked. And winning is so contagious, especially in the NFL. You saw that with the Panthers last year. You know, once they got on that roll and once they learned how to win, it almost looked like you almost had that feeling like they may not ever lose.
It's 100% momentum.
And that's one of the things I see happening to the Packers. And then I'm going to have the Seahawks at 4.
Yep.
And then the Falcons at 5. I'm really impressed with the Falcons. The Falcons could be one of the 2 top teams in the NFL.
I'm absolutely shocked by how elite Matt Ryan has looked this year. It just goes to show you that and if you have an offensive line, not only I don't think their offensive line has improved that much from last year. I really don't. Obviously, they add Alex Mack, which is a huge plus and a bonus and an upgrade. But I think just having the confidence to drop back to pass, to know that you're not going to have someone in your face in less than 2 seconds, just having that confidence of knowing that you got some time to throw the ball on every single given play, just it elevates your play that much more than what the actual addition gave you. So
the Matt Ryan thing is almost like the Sean Lee comparison. It's always something we knew he was capable of doing, but except that Matt Ryan's not really been injury prone, but he just never, ever can 3-step drop, 5-step drop confidently without thinking, oh my God, my head's going to get taken off.
Exactly. And you know what's crazy to me? I mean, I know we talked about this last week, right? The Dak Prescott, Tony Romo situation. Do your thoughts change after this past weekend, after going to Lambeau and really stomping on Green Bay, right?
What impressed me was the deep balls he was throwing. They were still making it easy on him. He's still not doing
He's not doing
too
a ton.
Much.
Yep.
He is reading half of the field most of the time. Mm-hmm. Quick drops. He's getting the ball out quick, making a few reads. Mm-hmm. But there were some deep balls that he threw in Green Bay at Lambeau Field that had me sit up a little bit in my seat, and I'm like, okay, this kid's actually getting better. It's a scary situation. I've been about the whole Tony Romo come back and play thing. But I'll tell you what, man, if the kid makes throws like we were seeing last week in Lambeau on the money, I'm talking 30, 40-yard balls down the field, just in the perfect locations. How do you come into the locker room and tell that team you're going to switch?
So I don't think
potentially 6-1.
To me, I think the locker room thing is overblown. I think if they were to go back to Tony Romo, I don't think any of those guys would say no. I think it's much more difficult, like I said last week on the podcast, it's much more difficult if the veteran starts and then gets unseated by a rookie because the veteran's not playing well. I think that's a little bit more difficult of a transition than a rookie that comes in and plays above expectations and then they go back to the veteran. I think that's a lot easier to understand as a locker room. So I'm not too concerned about that. But to me, last week, put me in a little bit more of a bind because I was very much in the Tony Romo crowd. Last week, I watched the tape. Dak looked very good throwing the ball downfield. I think these coaches not having Tony Romo there has made them better coaches. I think it's
Made them have to do more.
I think it's made Jason Garrett actually coach a little bit better in terms of I need to make sure that I call a very balanced game. I need to make sure that I'm keeping my quarterback protected. I'm keeping 6 guys in. I'm making it very easy on him, a very one-read system. I think that's made the coaches better, and I think it's elevated Dak Prescott's game more so than just his sheer talent level because honestly, I think his talent level is not quite what everyone is saying. I know that a couple people are saying that Dak Prescott for MVP.
I like to compare him to
it.
Alex Smith.
Yeah.
That's my comparison of Dak Prescott. I think he's like an Alex Smith. A
At
little
least.
better of an arm, mobility is nice, brains are there,
Yeah.
and he's not having to do too much. Don't get me wrong, MSU. I'm still gonna stick strong. If it's me,
I'm not going back to Tony Romo either. I'm going back to Tony Romo. Sorry, I'm going back to Tony. I'm not sticking with that. I want to go back to Tony Romo. As long as Tony Romo is 100% healthy, I'm still going back to Tony Romo.
Worst case scenario, he comes there and he shits the bed. You can make that switch.
Straight back to Dak. 100% straight back to Dak.
I agree.
I'm curious about your thoughts. I saw today a little bit. The rumor mill is already trending. We're getting up to the November 1st trade deadline in the NFL. They're
crazy, right?
They're already talking about Romo to the Browns, right?
Yeah, just like the whole Peyton Manning was going to come here and coach in the front office.
Or that was
Peyton
another
Manning
team.
wants nothing to do with this shit show. Trust me.
Another team was Romo to the Broncos, right? So
now that would be very interesting but they don't need it. They don't need it right now.
Personally, I don't think they need it. I think Trevor Siemian is more than competent, and they've already proven they can win with a noodle arm and Peyton Manning last year. So
if they can win with what Peyton Manning did last year, they can win with.
Yeah, Siemian's fine. Siemian's going to be fine. So that's kind of my thoughts on that sort of thing. So I think we're mostly on the same page about the NFL. I'm curious to see what happens this week in Week 7.
Real quick. I got to get your thoughts.
Yep.
2 teams here, okay?
Yep.
Carolina Panthers, fork, right? Put a fork in them.
Not quite. I'm not quite ready.
That defense is just absolutely
terrible. So bad.
And then one more team here. Are we seeing the real Eagles? Are we seeing them finally coming back down to earth? 3-2, 2 straight losses. Do you think they're gonna make playoff berth or no?
They lose Lane Johnson for 10 games with the suspension after the appeal They lose the appeal. I rewatched every single drop back of Carson Wentz this past weekend. I rewatched every single one because I almost did a box score take and said, you know what, Carson Wentz crashed back down there. I didn't want to say that. I was really against Carson Wentz coming in this season. I got off that wagon and started thinking that he was a little bit better. I was really hesitant in the offense that he came out of North Dakota State. I was very hesitant about that. I was hesitant because he didn't have any snaps in the preseason. Came out, lit it up, looked very good. I was impressed with the decision-making. I was impressed with the arm strength. I was just impressed overall. And then I was like, you know what? I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt. I'm going to go watch this game very in-depth and see what happens. And to tell you the truth, I look back on every single drop back, and honestly, for the first half, a lot of it was Wentz's fault. There was a couple times in which he was dropping back. He wasn't feeling the pressure. He wasn't escaping out of the pocket where there's places to run. He really didn't have that timer in his head to figure out when he was going to escape out of the pocket. It just looked off, which was strange to me. And I think it's because the right side of the offensive line is so bad now without Lane Johnson. The Redskins did not blitz the entire game. They rushed 4 every single time. And except for one time in the first half, late in the first half, they put a disguised blitz on it, and it confused Wentz. He called the wrong protection, slid his line to the wrong side, and took a bad he threw an incomplete pass, but it really should have been a sack. The second half, he showed tremendous improvement. He put great touch on the ball. His receivers really didn't help him out. So I'm not ready to say that Carson Wentz is a bad player, and I'm not ready to say that the Eagles are dead. I just think that they need to come up with a better game plan. What I was really shocked about personally was that every single pass that Carson Wentz threw last week was out of the shotgun. Every single one of them. And the
Do you think that was because of the offensive line troubles?
I think partially it was, but to me, if I'm an offensive coordinator and I'm looking at this I'm looking at this film from just a regular camera angle. If I can identify on just an 40-minute film study that they are passing only out of the shotgun, that immediately makes me think, oh, if I'm a defensive coordinator, I'm calling to that middle linebacker in the huddle and saying, they're in shotgun. The odds of them passing are a lot higher than if they're under center. Under center, they're going to hand the ball off. There's no way that they're going to let this kid drop back. So I'm nervous to see what that means about Carson Wentz.
One thing that the Eagles shouldn't be doing with a rookie quarterback is making that offense predictable. Something they did a really good job with the first couple weeks is putting him behind center, play action passes, dinks and dumps. It was just unpredictable.
Yep.
And don't make it predictable because he's going to get lit up.
And so I made some notes here. I really said he wasn't horrible. I said he needed to have better pocket presence than he had this past week. I said the right offensive side of the line did not help him out whatsoever. I said whoever was calling the protections really needs help, whether it's the center that's making those protection calls or whether it's Wentz himself. They really need to figure out the protection slides that I think could really help, because there was a couple times they were bringing in chips to help him while keeping Ertz. They kept Ertz in a lot in the second half to really help block those 4 defensive linemen, but they were still really getting killed. Right. I thought the Redskins played a base scheme and they still made Wentz confused, which I thought was fairly scary. But I'm still grading him at around a 74 to a 76. I really didn't think it was as bad as people said. He put just a lot of he made a lot of good throws, and he was far from the worst problem that the Eagles had on that offensive side of the ball. So to me, Wentz is still a very good quarterback. The arrow was pointing up for Wentz. I think he's going to be okay. We'll really find out a lot when he goes against Minnesota at home, Philadelphia this weekend. We'll see what happens. Minnesota's had 2 weeks to prepare for this since they're coming off their bye. So we'll see what happens against Minnesota this weekend.
One thing I want to add to the Cole Carson Wentz thing is that defense was playing out of its mind. I think once that defense comes down to earth a little bit, it's going to put a little bit more pressure on Carson Wentz, and I think that we're beginning to see that a little bit, combining with the offensive line troubles, like you said.
Well, they didn't score an offensive touchdown this last weekend. They scored a punt return for a touchdown, and they scored a pick six, right? And the rest, they kicked 2 field goals after that. So they got to score touchdowns, and you're right, that defensive front seven is very, very good. But outside of Malcolm Jenkins, who is really the cornerstone of the secondary, their corners are really not that good, and they're all very young. So we'll see what happens. Should be a very good game this weekend against Minnesota. But don't say Wentz is trash. He was never as good as people were saying this weekend or the first 2 games, and he's never as bad as stick a fork in him. He's done. He's grading out.
As a Browns fan and as a Cleveland guy, I hope he's trash, and I hope that the Eagles don't lose a
Cody Kessler looked great against the Titans, and the Titans are a decent defense.
I was listening to the Sports Talk radio today, and they think that already up to this point, if he continues to play like he has, that there is no reason to draft a quarterback next year in the first 2 rounds.
Really?
They like him that much, and that's coming straight from some of the head honchos of Sports Talk in Cleveland.
I watched that game fairly closely. I was fairly impressed with Cody Kessler. He was in a bad situation. The offensive line needs a lot of help. He had a lot of pressure in his face, and Tennessee, I mean, they really do not have that good of a front seven.
They haven't had the same offensive line once this entire year. The injuries, they're just decimated.
Yeah. So, and I mean, Terrell Pryor is a great weapon to have, but really outside of that, you don't have anything else. So, the fact that Cody Kessler was able to actually look fairly competent, he drove the ball well, and he put some good throws in the ball, and
he hasn't played a game at home yet this year either. So we'll see what he's
in a tough situation. So, hey, you know what? I'm all about having the guy that's had pro experience, giving him the credit and the benefit of the doubt outside of the guy you're about to draft. I'm all about the guy that has pro experience is to me worth his weight in gold outside of an unproven rookie. That's just my take.
I agree. All right, man. Let's get into. Well, do you really want to get into this whole ALCS, NLCS recaps, or do you think?
I think we did cover that.
We covered it pretty
well. I mean, we could just go straight into. I know this has been a huge topic lately, and a lot of people have been talking about it. It's probably good with the NFL, but the best college football team right now is clearly Alabama, and it's not even close. They're head and shoulders above absolutely everybody. I mean,
Everybody.
above Ohio State, above Michigan, above Clemson, above absolutely everyone. I don't even care what you. There's no argument to be made right now for me that Alabama is without a doubt the absolute best team in the country, and it's by a mile. But people keep saying that they could beat the worst team
Not in a million years.
in the NFL. That's, to me, that's insane. That is, who thinks that is actually possible? That
there are starters on both sides of the ball at Alabama who couldn't sniff an NFL football.
Couldn't sniff an NFL practice squad, right?
No,
I mean,
absolutely not.
I mean, Trent Richardson, he's out of the league. Eddie Lacy may be out of the league next year. He just went in on IR, and the guy, I mean, he may be making his next start at left guard.
It would all be in the front seven. The front sevens would just get demolished.
Yeah, these guys are grown men. They are professionals. Okay, these are men that are going against potentially 18-year-old kids. They're going to get killed. They're going to get absolutely killed. Okay.
I saw this argument. They would beat the Browns 100 times. The Browns would spank them by 28 plus points.
Absolutely.
Maybe by halftime.
Absolutely.
It's just not even an argument. I don't even want to spend that much time on this topic because it's if you honestly believe that, I feel really bad.
Have you ever heard of the argument where you're playing around at golf on a Sunday morning and your buddy goes, if I only had X amount of time, I can make the pros? Right. You heard that? Or I make the tour.
No, I have.
It's like, are you kidding me? These guys,
if I could drive the ball straight down the fairway,
if I could make a putt outside of 10 feet, I'd be a pro too. You know, if these guys are the top 1% of athletes everywhere that are in the pros, and even the guys on the practice squad would be Heisman Trophy winners anywhere else. Okay, these guys are absolutely incredible athletes, absolutely just incredible, and there's just no way the practice squad of the Browns would probably beat Alabama 10 out of 10 times. Okay, so please, anyone that says, "Oh, I think the Browns because they had, Alabama had 20 first-round draft picks," it doesn't mean crap. Wait till you get to the NFL. No. So many guys get exposed once they get to the next level. The schemes.
Cody Kessler would sit in the backfield and just pick apart the Alabama defense.
These guys are so experienced. The schemes are so much more complex and complicated, and just the overall athletic talent is just so much higher. So
grown men.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's to me, it's absolutely laughable. But I think with that, I mean, JV, we've discussed a lot already in the first hour, and it's already whizzed through. So I think we probably just want to take a quick break.
I'm checking with CJ now, our producer, to make sure he's good to go for that.
Yep.
I don't have an issue with that. We'll come back. We'll talk some sports gaming, some fantasy sports, guys. Feel free to give us a call, though. If you guys have any fantasy questions, who to start, who to sit, waiver wire pickups, give us a call, 646-558-8656. You'll see the caller ID number on ScoreSpace on the homepage.
We just want to thank everybody listening out there on mobile, everyone that's on Twitch simulcast, and most importantly, thank you so much for ScoreSpace for hosting us on Thursday nights. This is The Real Take with MSU Fanatic and JV Gaming. We're here every single Thursday night bringing you the realest of real takes, 9 Eastern, 8 Central. We really appreciate y'all being here, and please stay tuned after the break as we get into even more real takes about fantasy sports and anything else that has to do with that's going to impact your lives this year in the sports world. So thank you very much, guys.
Be right back. Don't go anywhere.
What's up, radio listeners? You're tuned into The Real Take on ScoreSpace Radio with JV Gaming and MSU Fanatic.
Hey guys, what's going on? It's your boy MSU Fanatic. Welcome back to The Real Take. For everyone out there on the Twitch simulcast, everyone out there on mobile, thank you so much for tuning into The Real Take every single Thursday night, bringing you the realest takes on sports gaming, and fantasy. So thank you very much. JB, how did you think that hour went on episode 2? It was pretty hot, man. I felt like
it went a lot better than last week when I felt like I was going to shit my pants when the show first started.
Jesus.
I don't know why. I stream.
Oh, we just lost a
my
bunch of
thing.
viewership.
I just whatever.
Everyone's like, no, JV, man. But hey, listen, guys. So we spent a lot of the majority of the hour talking about really what's going on in the sports realm. We really want to shift the gears a little bit per se and get into gaming. One of the hottest new titles just dropped this past week in Battlefield 1. I personally have not played it. I know JV has played it and played it quite a bit over the past week. I know he's been streaming it a little bit on Twitch as well. JV, if you just want to kind of give me a recap, let everyone know what it's kind of about, what your take is, how you're enjoying it, just let everyone know and then talk about a Battlefield 1, right?
Yeah. This was one of my more anticipated games. When I started streaming, I said, I'm going to stream 3 games. It's going to be Madden, it's going to be MLB, and it's going to be Battlefield. And then once I found out Battlefield was coming out with this whole World War I thing, which is what I've been praying for Call of Duty to do, because they had the World at War thing, which I really enjoyed.
Yep.
They came out with, the whole World War I theme, riding on horses, flying in planes, doing what you want to do. Old school, just really nice, put together game. And it literally blew my expectations away. It has been 100% phenomenal.
In what way? What's the ways? You say you blew give us like the top 3 things that really.
We'll start with the graphics, man. I mean, you'll have structures, buildings, vehicles, just all over this map. 64-player map, and anything will be destroyed. I mean, you can every single building on the map. You can see every grain of dirt, every piece of grass.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just the details that they put into it is amazing.
Just awesome.
And the weapons, man, the weaponry. It's just the detail.
It really appeals to that eye, right? It just looks great, right?
Right, and the fact that you can squad up with 15, 20 people if that's something you wanted to do. They did really well as far as multiplayer and playing with friends. Something that they needed to work on, and so far so good. But definitely user friendly, streamer friendly. I've streamed it the last couple days. I'm probably going to stream it here after our show. So, any of you guys who actually wanted to see some gameplay, that's something that you can do. I'm trying to convince you to get at MSU. I know you're going to budge sooner or later. It'll happen,
dude,
just like every other game.
I saw a commercial for it today. I was sitting in the caf eating my lunch at work today, and I was watching a little ESPN, and the ad came in with Battlefield 1, and I'm just like, JV's everywhere. He's everywhere, man. And it's like,
I'm telling you,
it looks great from a guy that I haven't played it yet. I'm always hesitant to kind of get into the first-person shooter stuff. I'm not an old guy. I'm 28 years old, but I know I've lost a step in my fast twitch action in my hands. So I just. I get hesitant of playing those games because I get really frustrated when I'm not that good. I've played some H1Z1, the King of the Kill, and I played that a couple hours and still haven't killed anybody yet, so I'm hesitant about that sort of thing.
I think I've killed like 5 total people in like the 20 hours I played, and it's still so fun.
Obviously, the biggest thing for me, the biggest draw would be obviously playing with guys on the MLB community like you or Clutch Silver or Carl Dude or
I played with Carl Dude the last couple days. Yeah. He's actually really good. I think we were in a game.
Yeah.
We got into a tank. And he didn't die the entire game. We went like 38-0.
Of course he didn't. Of course. Carl Dude's awesome, So
good at everything, I guess.
I will probably end up getting it at some point because
tomorrow.
Tomorrow when I'm sitting there on Saturday, like Friday, tomorrow's Friday, but sitting there on Saturday this weekend, I'm like, what do I want to do all day? JV, are you on? You want to play Battlefield 1? I'm getting it, So I'm sure that'll happen at some point. But I've just never really been too much of a first-person shooter type of guy. I think I might have mentioned last episode that Halo was the very first-person shooter I played, and my little brother just dominated the crap out of me. And
I got a confession.
scarred me for life. So what's that?
I've never in my life played one round of Halo.
Really?
Never.
You never played one? Were you not an
Not a
Xbox
single
kid?
I never had an Xbox. I was always a PlayStation. I'll make another confession here.
Yeah.
I've never played a complete game of anything on Xbox. Never
Really?
even touched a controller long enough to complete a single game of anything.
So back before next gen came out, I was an Xbox guy. I had an Xbox. I moved to Xbox 360, and then when the next gen came out, and the PlayStation 4 and the Xbox One, the guys that I played my EASHL, NHL 17, for those of you that don't know what that is, the team up, everyone decided they were going to get PlayStation, which is the only reason why I switched over to PlayStation, and I haven't looked back since. And I love PlayStation, so not to get into that topic really too.
Love it too.
But yeah, so I absolutely love the PlayStation. But Battlefield 1, yeah, it looks like a great title. I'm potentially thinking about picking.
Listen, this is what you got to do, man. You start up the map. You hop on a horse, okay? You pull your samurai out. I hop in the plane, and this is what I'm gonna start doing. And
samurai. What is it? Samurai in your pocket? Like, are you?
Yeah. You listen. You get on this horse,
samurai?
Dude. It's almost and you just go, and you can either run the person over with the horse, or you can just whip your samurai out and just take heads off. My go-to thing I think I'm going to start doing is just hopping in a plane and kamikazing it right into the opposing horses. I think that's what I'm going to start doing.
And obviously, all right, I just got a breaking news story here. For those of you that aren't watching the NFL Thursday night game, Brian Hoyer suffered a broken left arm in the second quarter and left against the Packers. Yeah, man, feel bad for the kid. Not really a kid.
It's a hometown kid. Went to high school right down my street.
Oh my God. I mean, obviously JV's got a connection to Brian Hoyer because, big Browns guy, Browns starter for a little bit, was 6-3 as a starter there. Brian Hoyer was the first starting quarterback for me when I was actually in school. When I started at Michigan State back in 2006, Brian Hoyer was the starting quarterback there. So I have a kind of a connection to Brian Hoyer there. But, man, you got to feel bad for the guy. He finally gets
absolutely.
Has thrown for 300-plus yards in the past 3 games and all the starts. Looks like he's going to take that job from Jay Cutler, and then suffers a broken arm. So you feel really bad. So for those of you that aren't watching the game, that's the breaking news for tonight, is that Brian Hoyer suffers broken left forearm, and it's probably going to miss the season, it sounds like, after that. I don't see a way.
This is the second time this is going to happen to him.
Yep.
Where he looks like he's going to run away with the job. And
looks good. And then
on Thursday night. This is the second Thursday night game that's happened to him.
Thursday night. As much as everyone else in the world hates Thursday night football, Brian Hoyer hates Thursday night football the absolute most. So, yeah.
And you know what? He was playing really, really well. He was making Chicago people forget about.
Yep, playing really well. And I would know, because obviously I live in Chicago, and as even the Bears people, they hated Brian Hoyer at first, but everyone was starting to grow to love him a little bit. So, yeah, I feel really bad about that, man. But, I guess he probably will not be getting an upgraded MUT card. What do you think, as much as that? I don't think he's getting an upgraded MUT card this year, right?
He might, but his throw strength is going to be really low
too
soon.
Let's convert into this, okay? This thing hit the internet this week, and I just have to go off on it, okay?
Oh, God.
Hashtag
drum roll, please.
Hashtag Little Jimmy, right? Hashtag Little Jimmy. Basically, Toke Nasty, all right, started a Toke Nasty, and I think TD Barrett, right, started this thing where basically they put out these videos about Madden pack odds. So for those of you that don't know about Madden Ultimate Team, essentially it's a card collection game in which you collect different players and you build up your team, and you can either collect players by purchasing them off the auction house for the in-game currency, which is Madden coins, or you can actually purchase packs with your coins or purchase packs for actual real money. Okay. And this hashtag Little Jimmy thing came out this past week, and I was really very confused about what they were talking about. So out of my curiosity, I decided to look at one of these videos and figure out what the hell are these guys talking about? What's happening, right? And it turns out that people are complaining that the pack odds in Madden are bad, that they can't pull the best types of players in the packs, and that they think that they were having kids in their streams or in their parties crying because they spent hundreds and hundreds of dollars on packs in Madden and didn't get anything in return for them. And they spent all this money and they didn't get anything for them. And they were saying that this was introducing kids to gambling.
They obviously have never played MLB The Show. Just saying, but continue.
This makes absolutely no sense to me, JV. Like, they're saying that they're crying, they're spending their parents' money. First off, where are the parents in this situation? Okay, I'm not a parent, But my mom and dad, they controlled the credit card. I didn't have access to a credit card when I was 12, 13 years old. Okay.
Would have been nice, but no, I
Right.
didn't.
Right. I couldn't just go in, log in and say, I want to buy this and get it. Like that didn't happen for me. So where are the parents in this situation? Right. Where are the parents saying, sorry, little Jimmy, you're not allowed to buy packs this week. You have to earn your packs. If you want to spend your money on that, you can go ahead and do that. But to say that, to insinuate that EA is promoting gambling, yes, it is gambling. Okay, you're spending hard-earned money and you're not guaranteed anything in return. Right. But it's right in the fine print right there. It says that you have increased odds to get the best players in the game. Right. To say that you're expecting something, that would be like me walking onto a casino and saying, give me all my money back because I bet everything on black and it turned out red. Give me all your money back because I didn't get the best odds in return. Okay.
Right.
Like, just a joke, right? To expect that that's okay is just like the parents in this situation have to be held accountable for what their kids' actions are. I'm so tired of everyone pointing the finger at everyone else when it's your own stupidity that puts yourself in that situation. Okay, so there's no hashtag little Jimmy. Okay, they know what's going on in this situation. The pack odds are the pack odds. Who cares?
It's not like that's changed either over the years. It's
right?
always been this way.
And you know what the worst part about this? The guys that made these videos are the same guys that are going on Twitch and exploiting these kids for money. They're the guys that will accept a $20 donation from a 12-year-old kid because the 12-year-old thinks that will help them to get noticed by the streamer and have them like them more. Okay? To me, that's worse exploitation than what EA would be doing, right? Because these guys, they don't get absolutely anything for giving a donation to a Twitch streamer, right? So to me, you can go shove it because that's just absolutely ridiculous that you think that
I agree
that these kids deserve anything for what they're doing. It says right there, EA is not guaranteeing you anything. Good for EA. Good for EA. They should be doing this. This is the way that the model works. It's the whole reason why all these games have Ultimate Team modes because they make outrageous amounts of money on them. Okay, but the accountability begins and ends with the parents, and that's it. There's none of this crap about, oh my God, increase the pack odds. They're not getting anything. No one's forcing you.
These are also the same people that they'll log on to a game, they'll get into a heads-up game, and they'll complain that the other person has a team full of elites.
Yeah.
If it was that easy to get elites, like what's the point of playing?
What's the point? Yeah,
why? Just makes no sense. What draws me to Diamond Dynasty and Madden Ultimate Team?
Yeah,
95% of it is the packs. I love the fact that I have to work for this pack, get this pack, even if I have to buy the pack. Mm-hmm. If I opened up an elite every single time I open up a pack, where's the fun in that?
There's no fun in it. And to me, there's always a risk that you take if you buy a pack in one of these Ultimate Team games. And the inherent risk is what makes it fun, right?
Now, there are some people that I feel bad for, like P360 Gaming. I remember watching one single stream of his
I've seen this
about a month ago.
Yeah.
He spent, and I'm sorry to put you on blast here, he spent, I think, damn near $300
Yep.
and didn't pull one single elite card.
Yep.
Is that MLB's fault? No. That's a little bit on P360. Probably why he hasn't bought the single Madden Ultimate Team pack.
Yeah.
But it's one fun. But I do feel bad for you, but I mean, it's just how it is, man.
You're not guaranteed anything with this sort of stuff,
no, and life as well.
And to say that you think that you're deserved to be guaranteed, it's just a millennial way of BS thinking, and we need to get away from it. So all you people that are hashtagging Little Jimmy and retweeting Toke Nasty, honestly, guys, just get out because it doesn't mean anything. You're just trying to
He said something yesterday that pissed me off, and I quote tweeted him.
You're just going for clickbait crap, and you're just trying to exploit even more of those 12-year-old kids that you're saying EA is exploiting. That's it. You're just exploiting those kids. Like, just get away from me because just grow up. That's just a joke. Have some accountability on yourself. Have the parents be accountable for what their kids are doing. Don't have little Jimmy crying in the microphone because he didn't get anything because he opened up $1,000 worth of Madden packs.
I agree. This is what Toke Nasty said this yesterday. This was his tweet yesterday. Right around when the Indians had like a 2-0 lead. He tweets, "Crazy Dodgers about to beat the Indians in the World Series." It just absolutely pissed me off. And this goes back to last week's little rant I had. Like, where is our respect? Like, we don't get any respect. So I quote tweeted as like,
respect.
shit I'm talking about.
No
Never
respect.
any respect. It's just
JV, so we're talking about the money spent on digital items, right? Like video games, in-game currency. Obviously, most video games have gone to a pay-to-play model in some aspects, right? Especially within the sports realm.
yeah, and the more popular ones.
Right. So something that I want to get into, obviously I'm married, JV is in a relationship. Like, how do you explain this to your significant other when you're spending money on something that isn't physical? Right. So like, I'm out here buying packs on the low key or buying stubs on the low key, hoping my wife doesn't see the credit card bill, like, but how do you deal with that? Like, where does that happen? Like, is there a good way to go about, what's the threshold you're looking at? Like, my wife's always like, so how many pairs of shoes did you spend on the game tonight? And
Right.
luckily enough, I, have a nice job. She has a nice job. I have discretionary income, but at the same time, I have a budget that I stick to, and I make sure that I'm within said budget on a monthly basis, and I know what I can and cannot spend monthly, right? But like, how do you convince your significant other that, hey, honey, it's okay, it's for fun, it's no problem?
Yeah, just dropped $100 on fake video game cards.
Fake video game cards. And I get embarrassed when I talk to my friends that don't understand this, or they
aren't
play.
involved in the community.
Yeah.
I have the same issue.
We're all like, oh, I'd never pay to play to do anything like that. For me, it's entertainment, right? I don't go out and drink, I don't go party. I don't really go out to restaurants too much. So all of that money that
unless I'm in Chicago with you.
Unless you're in Chicago with me. Yeah. But all that money I save from that sort of thing. I spend on video games. And to me, if I get, 60 hours of entertainment and I've spent $150, to me, the price per hour of entertainment is actually pretty good, and it's better than anything else. Because I could, in being from Chicago, my wife and I could go out to a dinner and a movie, and once I eat that dinner, it's gone. $150 dinner, I just made some really expensive.
But I still got Mariners A-Rod in my inventory.
Yeah, so it's like, what are we gonna do? But you're right. I still have that digital card, baby. Woohoo! So
see, I don't have that problem though, because me and Rachel,
mm-hmm.
And if I had to make a Facebook kind of relationship status, it's complicated right now.
Okay, it's complicated.
Okay, because we're still living together. So I don't want you to yell out there that we're currently in a relationship, because it's Facebook complicated. Anyways, complicated. Enough of that. We'll have an update on that.
JV's the only man in the world that has an "it's complicated" status right now.
Yes,
on Facebook.
Yes,
okay.
Yes. I have it on my MySpace too, but I won't give that out. That's the only one I don't plug in on the show. But we have our own separate like incomes. Like, we don't share anything.
Mm-hmm.
When bills need to be paid, she literally just transfers it to my account. I pay the bill. Okay. We don't have a single bill that's shared.
Okay.
And after about the halfway point of MLB, my pack buyings went. I stopped buying packs. I mean, I dropped the money that I had in PayPal from donations and stuff on Twitch on Madden packs, but I haven't bought a pack of anything in a while. I'm trying to buy a house.
Yep.
And obviously, if I want to buy a house, I can't be dropping $100 a month on packs like I was doing in MLB at the beginning of the year.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I just don't have that problem. Harder for you, obviously, once you get, you're married.
Yeah, so we have a shared bank account. So I
just like Krowitzki, who I know is in the chat right now. I know he's probably giggling up a storm, but I just don't have that problem.
Yeah, I have a shared bank account with my wife and I. So for the way that we kind of do it is that we have a threshold amount that we can basically spend without the other one's permission. Sometimes it goes a little over, sometimes it's a little under. My wife is like, well, what if I spend, 4 $100 purchases in one day? It's all under $100. That's okay, right?
Right.
It's like, no, that's $400, honey. That's over our.
I remember when I first met you. You were streaming baseball. We ended up playing each other, and I'm sure you were shit talking me the entire time, because I know I spanked your ass that first game.
No, I really wasn't though. I was like,
no, we were really respectful. I came in. I said good luck after the game. I said good game. And we kind of became friends at that point on. And I think one of our first real conversations, you were telling me like about how your wife goes, babe, how much money is it going to take for you to get mad if I go shopping today? And that was just, I think that was like our first conversation.
Yeah.
And I thought that was so goddamn funny.
And my response was, you do what you think is right. That was my conversation with her. And of course, she came
What an 80-pack bundle. Is that right?
Yeah, well, she came back and spent like, $250. So I was like, I'm dropping a hundo on MLB. Hell yeah, let's go. But yeah, so it's a little bit different, obviously, for the both of us. But to me, I think the biggest thing is trying to be as much as I can, over communicative with my wife and tell her, when I'm buying and when I'm not. I don't like surprises. She doesn't like surprises. So I try to tell her, hey, honey, I'm thinking about, doing this. Is that okay? So as long as there's not surprises in the relationship, not to get this too offline, and be, communicate with your spouse or significant other. I think it's
CJ, cue the slow music, man.
Yeah, it's slow music. I mean, all these kids out there that listen to us. I'm like,
and you know what? And this is something that we have to talk about.
Cooties.
You have to be. It can get out of hand when you have account linked up to your PSN. You can just at a tap of a button. You can spend $20. I mean, I remember one week when I was looking on it, I looked at my credit card statements, and I spent like $160 on MLB packs, and I'm like, where the hell did that where did that happen?
How bad did you feel?
You have to be responsible. So what I did is I made it to where I couldn't save any of my account information on PSN. So if I wanted to go buy a pack, I had to go grab my credit card and actually think about it, enter in my stuff.
But you have to.
It's something you have to be responsible with, especially with these young kids. Like if you're a young kid or a young person out here and you have access to a credit card, I can see how easy it is for people to just.
I would low key slink out to the living room and go grab my wallet.
Tiptoe, trying not to wake anybody.
Straight out, man. Low key, like tippy toe out there and be like, hopefully.
What are you doing? Nothing. Grabbing water. You want some?
Yeah, you want some water, honey? Tea, coffee. It's like 12 o'clock at night. No, coffee sounds great. Pepsi, maybe a Coke. Don't.
She hears the damn PS4 beep turn on.
No, I'm always on my headphones, man. The worst is when she'll walk in and I'll be like purchasing right at that instant. And she'll look at me and she's like, what are you doing? And I'm like,
right. You got the wallet sitting on the lap and you're like, 7,
nothing,
4, 3.
Might as well catch me with Kleenex in my lap, So,
right. But and somebody brought this up in the chat, B Gibbs, and people are always like, well, how could you do that? But it's just like, and you stated this earlier, it's a hobby. It's become like, and especially if you're part of the community like you and I are, it's just something I would rather any day of the week, especially being at the age I kind of am now.
Mm-hmm.
I would rather sit down on a Friday and Saturday night, communicate with some community members, play video games rather than go and spend that $100 on drinks.
Yep.
So that's always my argument. A lot of people don't understand that argument, don't kind of get it.
Yep.
That's kind of my take on it.
Yep, definitely. I agree, man.
The real take on it.
The real take. Yeah. So we delve into an interesting topic right there, but hey, let's kind of sort back quickly to I know we talked about the MLB stuff early on at the beginning of the show. Let's kind of curtail back to that real quick. Obviously, the Cubs and Dodgers are tied up 1-1 right now. Jimmy, I want to get your take. So Clayton Kershaw pitched an absolute gem this past weekend. We know Kershaw has had some lackluster playoff performances in the past. Obviously, he's always been the best pitcher in baseball, but everyone has been like, I wouldn't take him to win a Game 7 in the playoffs. What do you think? What do you think that did for Kershaw coming in and saving Game 5 in the NLDS, and now throwing that gem this past? Was it Sunday? Or was it Sunday? Yeah, Sunday. This past Sunday, throwing the gem there, scoreless shutout, and now potentially, obviously, pitching the Game 6. How do you think that's going to change the perception of Clayton Kershaw going forward? If you think it has or hasn't, I just think it's crazy that everyone's like, best pitcher in baseball. I wouldn't take it for a Game 7 because of the playoff experience. I think that's always been insane. But I'm curious to get what your take is on that sort of thing with Kershaw right now.
Listen, he might be the best baseball. I might go as far as saying player in today's era / generation. If he's not the best, he is definitely the best pitcher.
Yep.
Okay. He's struggled in the postseason. I get that. You cannot shy away from doing something that you did for a 162 game season.
100%.
Okay?
Yep.
David Price might be the biggest choke artist ever in postseason play, but you can't just not start him. You know what I mean?
Yes, yeah.
I mean, obviously he's okay. If they're not going to go out there and give you 7-8 quality innings, if you're in the postseason, if you can get 5-6 innings out of your starter, quality innings, that's all you really can ask for. And it's not like Clayton Kershaw's really going out there and just absolutely just stunk up the bed.
No, he's been very good this year.
I'm looking at his numbers right now, dating back to 2014. We'll go as far as 2013. He gave up 7 runs in the Game 6 of the NLCS against St. Louis. Okay, that was a stinker. And then he gave up, we'll go all the way up to 2016 where he gave up 5 runs.
And that was in the 6th inning of the last, when he had that tough at bat with Harper, who's fouling off absolutely everything. And then he came in and he left the game, but the guys on the base were still his earned runs. So he obviously left him on the base, but it wasn't his pitches that brought him back in. So,
and those are the only 2 games where he gave up more than 3 runs in a postseason start. So it's not, yes, that's sometimes 3 runs isn't Clayton Kershaw. Like that's underperforming for Clayton Kershaw.
Yes.
But those are the only 2 games where I'm seeing here where he has given up more than 3 runs. So he's still going out there and he's giving quality starts. 2013, he went 4 innings in the start I was talking about from the 2013, and the 2016 start where he gave up the 5 runs. He still took you past 6 innings. Those are quality starts. I don't get the argument there. I still start him. I think him coming out and closing that game and going to his manager and being like, "Hey, I want the ball. I want to win this game."
That was huge. That was huge for him.
Boost the confidence. And I think it's a reason for his teammates to kind of believe in him, and I think he showed a lot to his manager there.
Yeah, absolutely. I totally agree. I echo every single sentiment that you said. I think Kershaw. If I'm picking a Game 7 starter, I'm still picking Kershaw.
Still maybe over any pitcher in baseball.
Regardless of the numbers, I think there's just so much talent there that absolutely you're going to regress back towards the statistical mean of just what you're doing every single time. I don't think there's any sort of mental hurdle or mental block. How many times do you think the Dodgers were actually the favorites when he was actually pitching? Kershaw has meant everything to that franchise since he's gotten there. So I totally agree with all of that. I think
Cubbies just did take a 3-1 lead on an Addison Russell homer here.
I saw that, and it's amazing that those bats tight last night, tight before this, and now here it comes.
I think this is 2 straight games where Blanton's come in and stunk it up.
Yep, it is. That slider, when it doesn't get over, it's easy to hit, easy to identify. But I'm curious to think. Obviously, Indians in the World Series, we'll know by the end of this weekend who the Indians will be facing out of the NL. JB, who do you want to face? Why? And then because you guys, you guys won so quickly, you guys are going to have 6 days off in between your last game played and the first game of the World Series. I saw a statistic today that of the 16 teams that have had more than 5 days off, only 2 of those teams have actually successfully went on to win the World Series. Okay. And I know that the MLB guys are creatures of habit. This is going to be the longest chunk of time that these players have had off since the beginning of April. They love playing games. They love getting out there. You can simulate pitches. You can simulate games. You can do all that sort of stuff. But until you're actually in a game, I think it's very, very hard to replicate it. If I'm an Indians fan, if I'm Terry Francona, I'm a little bit nervous, not overly nervous, but a little bit nervous because I want to have that momentum. I wish I was playing tomorrow so I could continue.
I wish I had played today.
I want to have that timely hitting. I want to have that bullpen. I want to have the starters. I want to have everything that's just trucking. I want to have that train. And now I'm pulling in the station. I got to get off, right? So I'm curious to see, hey, who do you think or who do you want to play out of the NL? And number 2, do you think the time off in between the game 5 and the first game of the World Series, do you think that's going to be an issue?
I definitely think it's going to be an issue. But here's why I'm a little bit optimistic. Mm-hmm. One, the Indians didn't hit well at all.
Hit horribly, right?
They were that. I think they had the lowest batting average. I know that they had the lowest batting average of all time in ALCS in an ALCS series. So as far as timing and being at the plate, I don't think it could get much worse. I honestly think that it'll actually probably somehow improve because you can't do that bad.
Except for Napoli, he's the man.
Except for and you know what? Napoli is part of that because it's as good as he played in the ALCS, he's still only batting like $190 in the playoffs.
Yep.
That just shows you how bad he was in the first series. So I that kind of plays into offsetting kind of a situation, but it does kind of scare me, especially with the pitching staff. And as you said, MLB players are creatures of habit.
They
like to be out there every single day. I mean, they love what they do. I'm afraid if I'm Terry Francona. It's going to help our pitching staff a little bit.
To get healthy,
obviously. Rest a couple of the arms. Brian Shaw definitely needed some rest. You could see he was starting to struggle a little bit. Andrew Miller was just throwing 40 plus pitches an outing sometimes.
I'm not too concerned about the bullpen guys. I'm concerned about the hitting, and I'm concerned about the starters. Right?
Because the only thing is what can get worse about the hitting? So that's my only argument. Like it can't get much worse. Like they can't hit worse. Starters, I'm a little concerned about, but
because how many times those guys have 7 days off in between starts? They never have 7 days off in between starts. Look at Justin Verlander back in the 2012 World Series, right? They mowed down the Yankees in 4 straight, and then they waited for the Giants. Justin Verlander, that was his MVP season, right? Mowing down guys, comes out the game 1, gets absolutely shelled by the Giants, right?
He got killed.
Got shelled by the Giants, was totally erratic, right? He had velocity. It was perfect. Everything was there, except he did not have location, right? So I'm very concerned about the starters. Obviously, it's good for Bauer to heal up his pinky finger, but I get concerned about
Salazar as well. The rumor is that Salazar is going to make the roster, and you'll see him on the mound.
Quick hits. Do you think we'll see Salazar in the World Series? Yes,
I do. You'll 100% see Salazar in the World Series. I don't know if you're going to see him make a start. Okay. You're going to see him pitch. 95% of the people, and 95. It was almost 100% fact that he was going to make the roster for the ALCS. They kind of said, you know what, let's push it back. Ryan Merritt could come on. We'll bring Ryan Merritt up. He pitched well, so another good call by Tito. But you will 100% see Danny Salazar in the World Series. Okay. I don't know if he'll start a game. I don't think you can just throw him out there. If you throw him out there, it's going to be like a Ryan Merritt situation where if you need that starter or something happens, you'll throw Salazar out there. And if I had to pick a team to play, who wants the Cubs? I don't want the Cubs. For 2 reasons. One, for the inflated prices of the tickets that will in Cleveland.
I'm coming. I'm on a road trip to Cleveland.
Good. I hope you do. Today they sold tickets at 10 o'clock. They sold out in 17 minutes. I went on StubHub to look, and like standing room only is like $700. It's insane.
Well, I'll try like 4K at Wrigley. So
and that's what I'm saying. Like they're just going to get inflated as soon as if the Cubs clinch a ticket, you're going to see prices jump because them Cubs fans have no issue driving 6 hours to come see a game for a third of the price.
Nope, no problem. So
I would rather see the Dodgers.
So the second quick hit on that. Do you think we'll see Trevor Bauer in the World Series?
Yes, I do. They think he's got these I heard it on the radio today. He's got the dissolvable stitches in. Doctors believe 3 or 4 days. You'll start to see those start to go away. They said that the only issue is he's not going to be able to throw it all in between if he wants it to heal 100%. And these guys have their bullpen days and days where they go in and simulated games. I don't know how that's going to work, but you're going to see a 3-man rotation of Corey Kluber, Josh Tomlin, and Bauer. You'll see Salazar, Merritt, and whoever else you want to throw in the bullpen to go ahead with Andrew Miller, who's been lights out, Brian Shaw, and Cody Allen.
And I know that this is kind of off kilter because we do not know who the Indians will be facing, but what's your prediction? Do you think the Indians are going to have enough to beat either the Dodgers or the Cubs? Just give me what you think the series will go to, and if the Indians are going to win the World Series. I think I know the answer to that last question, but what do you think? If you face the Dodgers, how many games are you going to win? If you face the Cubs, how many games are you going to go? Are you going to win?
We face the Dodgers. I think the Indians win in 7. Purely off of just bullpen play. Okay. In small ball.
Yep.
If it's the Cubs, I'm afraid. I am deathly afraid of playing the Cubs. Especially The Cubs win in 6. If the Cubs win in 7,
Mhm.
they have 48 hours off, and then they're here in Cleveland. The rest really scares me. My heart tells me that the Indians, there's nothing they can't do. I mean, look what they've
Yep.
done without
Yep.
some of these players. And I trusted 100% in Tito Francona. So if I had to place a bet down and I was playing with my actual money, I would not put my money right now on the Cleveland Indians.
And it's so hard too if the Cubs versus the Indians are going. Like you want both teams to win, right? You want the
Right.
Cubs to win because
Especially nationally.
I know everyone doesn't nationally. The Cubs are hit or miss because people hate the Cubs fans for the most part. But outside of that, there's just nothing. There's nothing that says about that team. There's no guy on that team that you really dislike besides maybe John Lackey, who pushes his luck from time to time. Everyone else in that Cubs team is very well liked. Everyone else is very young. You want to see that team succeed. And then you have the Indians, which is just, you got the Cleveland thing going. You got the Cavaliers thing going. You got the potentially, the underdogs all the way through. You want to see them win. So if you get the Cubs Indians as not a fan that has a horse in the fight, really, you're not going to know who to pick. You're just going to want to see great games because either team.
You shouldn't
There's
want to
reasons.
pick. You should just want to see 7 games of. And the only thing that really keeps my hopes up, and the only thing that's really got me excited, is the Indians have home field advantage, best home field team in all of baseball.
Yep.
Crowd plays a huge factor, and I don't think that their hitting can get any worse than it did in the ALCS. So
it's so weird to me, coming from a guy that really exclusively watched NBA and NHL, that the MLB does the 2-3-2 split series.
I don't like it.
Everything else does obviously the 2-2, 1-1-1-1. I think the 2-3-2 thing is really disheartening to the team that doesn't have home field advantage, because the away team just has to steal one game in the first 2, and then home field swings back to the team that actually isn't supposed to have home field advantage.
Like the Dodgers were the perfect example. They stole one in Wrigley, and I tweeted out, I'm like, hey, all the pressure in the world is on the Cubs right now, because if they don't go to LA and win one of those first 2 games, that series could be
freak
over.
out. Yep, exactly. You freak out. So I know, I understand it, because the MLB needs to compress the playoffs as fast as possible to get out of an issue with weather that may happen for these cities like the Chicago Cubs, where it could snow at the very end of October or early November, or even in Cleveland as well, because JB, you know that just as well as I do. In the Midwest, we could have snow next week, right? So I understand that they need to compress it, and they need to play, the back-to-back games, have 1 day of travel, 3 straight games, 1 day of travel, then 2 straight games. I understand that, but man, I really wish that it could be a little bit different, because I know that you can't play an 8:00 game in LA and then drive or fly all the way back cross country for another 8:00 game with the time zone change and all this.
Right.
I know that they do it for the NBA, where it's the 2-2, 1-1-1, but they give those guys 2 days of travel in between the games in which they are traveling.
And it's a lot easier to prep and get warmed up and to go through, the pregame stuff for an NBA game rather than an MLB game. There's so much more little bits and pieces that go into baseball.
So JV, obviously we've covered a lot tonight.
I do want to make my prediction though. I'm going to say this wholeheartedly. I'm going to say Indians over the Dodgers, just because I think the Dodgers are going to win with Rich Hill and Clayton Kershaw on the mound the next couple of
So you hear it there from Josh Varro. He is saying the Indians over the Dodgers, right?
Over the Dodgers in 7 games. Like I said, Kershaw is going to get another start here. I'm gonna say that coming off that save, he's going to get a win, and Rich Hill's looked absolutely phenomenal. And I don't see the Cubs rattling off 4 straight here.
Well, I personally, for me, I think the Cubs will pull out the series. I think they win tonight. They go back home. Up 3-1, and then I think they close it out on Saturday. I think that Kershaw comes back down to earth a little bit. The Cubs bats are obviously warmed up. 3-2. Sorry, 3-2. I think the Cubs bats have heated up enough. Addison Russell has obviously gotten going. Rizzo has looked a lot better. I think those 2 players are the absolute linchpins that need to make this kind of circus move.
Did you hear the story on Rizzo on how he busted out of the slump?
He stole Matt Caesar's stuff, right?
Yeah, I think that's a funny story. I
Yeah, he
heard
stole
that
Matt
yesterday.
Caesar's stuff. Good for him. That's what he should do. Baseball players are crazy. They're insane.
He went in the dugout, broke the bat, threw it in
Yeah.
the trash can, stole the bench player's
Yeah,
bat, and
it's easy.
went up there.
So game over. Yeah. So I definitely think that they are going to dominate, or not dominate, but I think they win tonight and they win on Saturday, and they close out the series on Saturday, and we see a fantastic World Series against the Cubs and the Indians. I really don't know. I say it goes 7 games. It's really a flip of the coin. My heart says probably Cubs in 7. My head says a little bit more of the Indians. So it's really a 50-50 toss for myself. So and with that, let's wrap up the show. Get to the last 15 minutes. If you guys have any questions, we're going to switch over to fantasy. JV, how did your week in fantasy end up? Did you do well?
It went good. Like I said, I got my 2 main teams. I got the league with my buddies I've been in for years, and then I got the league, Rachel's like work league.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm pulling it up right now, so bear with me. But in Rachel's work league, I know absolutely just spank job. Last week I won 142 to 98.
And this PPR or standard?
This is PPR, 12-team PPR.
Okay.
That's a team where I have David Johnson and Le'Veon Bell on the same team, so it's looking up for me. I also somehow snagged Jimmy Graham off of the waiver wire, so somebody panic mode Jimmy Graham in the first couple weeks.
They dropped him in the first couple weeks.
So somehow I was able to snag him. It's a
what
bid, so I bid
weekend?
like 50 out of my $100 to pick him up because I thought my team was solid enough. I am currently sitting at 5-1.
So you won last week there?
Correct.
Okay, cool. Okay.
Somehow, Le'Veon Bell down week, but we know that David Johnson ate last week.
Mm-hmm.
But Joseph, I had Jai. He had a huge week.
Mm-hmm.
To go along with some good quarterback play and stuff. And then in my other league, not so well. That's the league with all of my buddies. Joe Miner, who probably listening, Joe Sopko and such. I know you guys are all probably listening, and if not, you'll be listening to the podcast. So a little shout out to them. But I'm currently sitting at 1-5, coming off of my championship from last year.
Good for you, man.
I got Aaron Rodgers at quarterback.
Down year.
Yeah, Aaron Rodgers at quarterback. We know how that's going. I was kind of floating high on this Matt Jones, running back from Washington, train,
very good
not working out
this past weekend. Looked very good.
He did. Sammy Watkins I took. He's hurt. LeGarrette Blount looked good at the beginning of the year, but now that Tom Brady and James White are playing, you're gonna see a little bit of a decline out of him. Stephon Diggs I was high on. He's starting to come back down to earth a little bit. So yeah, just a rough year for me in this league, which sucks because I see these guys every day. So
well,
I got to hear about it. You know how that goes. Everybody does it. Everybody goes through.
Everyone has a bad year every once in a while. Even the best drafters in the world, like ourselves, have down years. That's just what happens. So
yeah. We're self-proclaimed the 2 best drafters in the world.
Yep.
For all of you guys out there, it's not even close. Like there's nobody who even compares to us. Just in case you're wondering,
we're just amazing.
Myself over MSU over the rest of the world.
There you go.
But go on, man. How was your week last week?
It was good. I ended up 1-1. The one team in my family league, which is standard scoring, I ended up putting up about 142 points, which was insane. I had OBJ go off for me. I had Terrell Pryor go off for me. I had Marcus Mariota go off for me. I had Christian Michael, all these guys, multiple touchdown games. So when you score a bunch of touchdowns are the flukiest stat in the world. I never, ever count on touchdowns from week to week. I'd rather have base yardage 100% of the time. But just so happened that the touchdown genie touched my team, and I made it happen. So that was good. My other league is quickly falling apart. I started off the year with Eddie Lacy and Latavius Murray. Eddie Lacy went to IR today. Latavius Murray has had turf toe, so he's been out. I saw a trade in that league last week. I got Tevin Coleman and Jimmy Graham, and I traded out James Starks and Marvin Jones. So I sold high on Marvin Jones. I got Tevin Coleman, who the guy I know was trying to sell high on Tevin Coleman, but to me, Tevin Coleman, since it's a half-point PPR league, gives me a better floor than anyone else, and it made it look even better, the fact that Eddie Lacy got hurt, so it really showed up that spot. And I was streaming a tight end in that league, so that helped me out. But I lost in that league this past week. The team didn't score any touchdowns. It's hard to win when you have no touchdowns on your team. So that league, I'm going opposite directions. In my family league, I started off 0-2. I've won 4 straight. In the other league, I rattled off 3 straight wins, and now I've lost 3 straight. So I'm trending in opposite directions for these teams. I feel more confident about my family league because I have a little bit better depth. I have a couple. I think I have 2 good pillars at running back, and I have a good, strong receiving core, and I've been doing it without Dez Bryant, who's been hurt, and we're expecting, obviously, Dez Bryant next week after the bye against the Eagles, so I'm looking for big things from Dez. But it's going to be an interesting week this week. I think this week is the week of replacement running backs. So if you're looking for someone that you need to go pick up on your waiver wire that may be available, my biggest guys right now are Jaquiz Rodgers for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. They are playing the 49ers at the 49ers, who have an absolutely atrocious run defense.
You stole my thunder there.
Right, Jaquiz Rodgers, 35 touches the last Monday Night Football game against Carolina. I think he's going to be huge. Doug Martin is out for who knows how long. They're thinking potentially back in 2 weeks, but who knows what's going to happen with him. Go pick him up if he's not already owned, which he may already be in your league. So Jaquiz Rodgers on that one. And then Mike Gillislee. All right, Mike Gillislee for the Buffalo Bills. LaShawn McCoy had a hamstring thing that he hurt this past weekend, aggravated again on Wednesday night. Gillislee ran very, very hard, looked really good against the Niners. Obviously, the Niners are not very good. He's going against the Miami Dolphins, who the Miami Dolphins have a very, very porous run defense as well. Mike Gillislee could be in line for, I'm thinking, at RB2, high upside RB2, maybe a running back 1 this week. So he's may not be owned. Potentially the LaShawn McCoy owner is asleep at the wheel right now. Go pick him up, if nothing else, just to block your opponent from picking you up this week. There's no one in your league right now that can't afford another living, breathing running back on your bench. Okay, so go get another running back. You want to stockpile as many as you can. Because if you don't have a handcuff for someone, odds are you're just asking for trouble. So try your best. Go pick up those 2 guys. I think the replacement level guys are huge, not only for your seasonal redraft leagues, but also your leagues that you may be looking at for DFS this weekend. Daily.
Who's your? Let's get into who's your must play and must fade for DFS this week.
Must play for DFS this week. Same guy as it was last week. Marcus Mariota going against a porous Indianapolis Colts defense. Marcus Mariota has been absolutely tearing it up the last couple weeks. He's been taking advantage of his schedule, right? And I think that's huge for a quarterback in this situation. Started off the year as one of the lowest rated passers in the league on the first 3 weeks, right? Throwing interceptions, just looking overall like garbage. Goes against Miami, has a great game, 3 touchdowns. He rushes for a touchdown, 60 yards. This last week against the Cleveland Browns, he had 284 yards through the air, 3 touchdowns, only 1 interception, which was actually a tip ball that really shouldn't have been an interception. And he also had another 64 yards in the ground. So he offers up a really, really good floor for you, which I think is really important for especially those of you that are playing in a 4-point per touchdown, 4-point per passing touchdown league. Mariota offers just really good upside, and it's just a great floor, which is something that I'm always trying to find the safe zone. I think you lose a lot of weeks when your team puts up 80 points, right? You don't want your team to be so up and down where your best nights you're going for 140 and then your worst nights you're going for 60. I want to look for a team that's scoring 110 points a week, because you're going to win more weeks out of the other ones if you're putting up those 110 points. So Marcus Mariota, for me, must start going against Indianapolis, who somehow made Brock Osweiler like at least acceptable, right? And Brock Osweiler shouldn't even.
We went off on him last week,
right? So I think Mariota is a huge play for you. The last time that Mariota played against the Colts, he went 27-44, 367 yards, 2 TDs, 2 interceptions. I don't think it's any. I don't think it's any anomaly that Marcus Mariota, ever since he's been running the ball better, that the overall offense has looked a lot better. They've kind of converted into an Oregon-ish style offense with Malarkey letting him have a read pass option. He scrambled for 44 yards in his very first play of the game last week. It's just a very good situation. So if Marcus Mariota, if you're looking for a streaming option, right, if you have a quarterback that may be playing a difficult schedule this weekend, so potentially let me give you an option here in terms of. I know the New Orleans Saints have a kind of a difficult matchup this weekend against Kansas City at Kansas City away. You may want to bench Drew Brees for Marcus Mariota. So what's your thoughts, JV, as far as a guy that you're absolutely looking forward to trying to either scoop up and play right away, or just a guy in your standard redraft that you're looking forward to dominating with?
I'm gonna start off with my must play, my must adds. I like Andy Dalton this week going up against the Browns. Andy Dalton the last couple weeks, we'll say the last 3 weeks, few yards shy of 300 yards each of the 3 weeks, throwing a touchdown in all of them, going up against a decimated Browns secondary.
Get right.
Also,
AJ Green too, man.
Who is also they're going to be without Joe Hayden. It looks like again this week, who did not practice today. They also lost their starting free safety with a lacerated kidney last week on a dirty hit.
I saw that.
And you know what? Did you hear about that whole story about how that player went back, tweeted about how he kind of like boasted, saying, he blew Jordan Poyer up, and I guess he broke the whole player code of conduct.
Whatever. So
that'll be my rant next week. Just so you know.
Yeah, we'll go on. That, so.
But I like Andy Dalton against Cleveland this week. That's my must play DFS fantasy waiver wire pickup. If you're looking to plug somebody who may be on a bye,
and if you're thinking about that, if you think Dalton's going to do well, look at outside of AJ Green, maybe a Brandon LaFell or a Tyler Boyd. Tyler Boyd had his best game this past weekend the entire season. So I know he had his most snap count this past week.
This year,
so
LaFell and Boyd this year have played better than what Sanu and his face played. Yeah, Marvin Jones. Have outperformed him up to this point of the season, which is something I did not see coming. But Brandon LaFell's he's actually stepped up the last few weeks, seen a lot of targets, and they think he's going to see a lot more in the red zone. And then my second waiver wire pickup, somebody who I would like to play. Duke Johnson going up against the Cincinnati Bengals defense, who allowed James White to kind of just catch the ball wherever he wanted to out of the backfield last week. I'm anticipating Duke Johnson seeing about 50% of the snaps this week, with Isaiah Crowell kind of declining. Duke Johnson's a player they really like, somebody who you're going to see out the backfield. Browns are going to be in third down situations a lot. Cody Kessler loves the check down, loves the dump. So I mean, worst case scenario, I think he's going to have 6-7 receptions. So there's some points for you there. And in my fades this week, one player I would absolutely fade from, obviously, I'm going to say Russell Wilson. But Carson Palmer, for the quarterback lovers out there, I know he's coming off of a couple good weeks here. Definitely would fade him. Not going to get into too much of the details because we're kind of running short on time. But what are your thoughts on the Carson Palmer thing? Do you think he's finally coming back to earth, or what?
Oh, I thought he was way overdrafted going into drafts this year. Way too high for a third round guy. Coming off kind of an issue. He might not even play this week. Honestly, he has a hamstring pull.
Right. So, they have him listed as questionable.
So I know
he practiced today though. So
was it a limited session? I'm not even sure. I know veteran quarterbacks don't need a lot of reps, but still kind of a concerning thing. But yeah, I'm getting away from Carson Palmer. I'd rather start a Mariota. I'd rather start a Jameis Winston. I guess a 40.
Yeah, and Derek Carr is another one. I like Derek Carr this week going up against.
Yep, that's a good one.
Who are they playing?
The Raiders.
Yeah, I'm drawing a blank here.
Let's see here. The Raiders.
I saw it earlier. I looked at it. It is the Jags. The Jags defense.
I would be a little more hesitant about that. I know the Jaguars have played the best defense in the past 3 weeks that in their schedule, and I think they are playing better. They're getting that turnaround with Jalen Ramsey. Right. Their corners have been playing better. That front seven with Dante Fowler has been playing better. I would be a little bit more hesitant about that one, but obviously the volume's there. If Latavius Murray can't go, if DeAndre Washington can't go, definitely a good start there. We have someone in the chat asking if they want to do LaFell or Devontae Parker. I'm starting LaFell 10 out of 10 times out of that one.
I agree.
Devontae Parker is not getting he's not getting the targets. The Dolphins want to be a run-first offense with that improved offensive line. Got Laramie Tunsil back. Got their left tackle back as well. I think they're going to do well, and they're going to try to run the ball with Ajayi. So I'm fading towards LaFell in that situation.
And in one last question, Ty Montgomery, absolute must-have at this point.
Yes.
Correct.
Yeah, absolutely. He's playing right now. He's played very well.
But other than that, who's the running back option? Because obviously James Starks out with an injury. Who do you see getting the bulk?
I think Ty Montgomery. They've lined him up 7 times in the backfield.
And I haven't looked at any of the game today, so that's why I'm asking.
Yep, I've had the game on. I've been watching a little bit. He's lined up. I believe it's about 7 times in the backfield and 5 times out wide. Looks good. Has had a fairly good game running the ball. He has 7 carries for
currently leading the team.
56 yards leading the team. He has 8 receptions for 59 yards.
Huge fantasy day. Holy
on 11 targets. I mean, if he's going to maintain wide receiver eligibility, and if your wide receiver is getting 5 carries, keeps the floor very, very high. So huge, in my opinion, for that. So Ty Montgomery is the guy to own. I know they activated Don Jackson from the practice squad. I don't necessarily see him becoming a heavy load. I did pick him up in the league that I owned Eddie Lacy in.
Right.
Obviously, traded for Niall Davis, the Chiefs' backup running back, who has been okay, but has only averaged 3.6 yards per carry in every single attempt since he got started last year. So I'm not too concerned about Niall Davis. I think Ty Montgomery will definitely be the guy to own in the backfield. And
has he become the must play for the Green Bay offense?
I don't think he's the must play. I just think he's going to have a nice save floor. I'm not saying that he's not going to be he's not going to return wide receiver 1 value for the rest of the year, but he's going to be a guy that you can comfortably start and know that you're going to get between 7 to 9 points a week. And to me, that's a wide receiver 3 with a high upside wide receiver an upside wide receiver 3 week to week. And you got that guy for free. So, and he's passes by week too, which is huge. So you never have to drop.
Right. Exactly.
So,
and then real quick here, I want to get into NCAA football before we end the show. I want to do our top 4 teams and then the 2 looking in. And you can go ahead and start that. What do you think here while I go ahead and find my notes so I can pull mine up?
Honestly, JV, if I could, I would put 4 Bamas in and just have them compete for the title. That's the way it works for me. Bama's head and shoulders, as I said, better than everyone else. Jalen Hurts, Bo Scarborough. I had a couple other notes written about guys that I was absolutely phenomenally impressed with this past weekend. Tim Williams just looks like an absolute stud on the outside, just wrecks people. It's crazy. I watched all of the Tennessee-Alabama game, and it was just like they got contained a little bit in the first half, but you can only contain it for so long before they just wear you out, right? And so they're just incredible. Lane Kiffin, the offensive style, the offensive coordinator, the plays that he's called to really mold his offense around Jalen Hurts has been just been phenomenal. I really am so impressed with the scheme that he's changed to really enhance his freshman quarterback. So Bama's obviously number 1 for me. I have OSU number 2. Huge game at Camp Randall going in there. Wisconsin's a great team. I know they've lost 2 already, but those 2 could have gone either way. Wisconsin's a very, very good football team. Do not sleep on Wisconsin. So OSU number 2 for me. JT Barrett is huge for that team. Washington, Jake Browning at quarterback out there. I still love Washington. I will not fade into this Pac-12 BS. Pac-12 is not a very good conference, but UW.
They don't play Pac-12 football.
Yeah, if UW continues to win games and they are a champion, they deserve to be in. And number 4 for me is Texas A&M, which obviously Alabama, Texas A&M this weekend. I think they're a very good team, and I'm excited to watch their game and watch it more closely this weekend. 2 outside looking in, U of M and Clemson. Clemson should have lost to NC State, period. They got very, very lucky. They iced the kicker at the end of the game. The kid missed it wide right. It was like a 25-yard kick. I mean, it was like an extra point in the NFL. Missed the kick. Clemson should have been out. They're turning the ball over carelessly. Deshaun Watson didn't take 1 snap under center. He's not an NFL quarterback, guys. No one should want to take him in the NFL draft right now.
He'll get drafted, but he's definitely not the number 1 sure overall pick, like everybody said. He's not even. I don't see him as a first round pick.
I wouldn't. I know I would never get him, but I would take him in the 3rd round first. That would be the first time. Guy plays in a simple shotgun 1-read offense. So those are my 2 looking out, and I think Bam is surefire to win. I think OSU is the only team that can match them in talent right now. I'm very eager to see Texas A&M and Alabama play this weekend.
Yeah, and I agree. Last week I had Ohio State 1, Bama 2, and I have Alabama 1, and then Ohio State 2. Followed by Washington at 3. I just love everything about Washington, from their coach to the
awesome.
pro style offense, the quarterback play. Absolutely beautiful. I got Texas A&M at 4, Michigan 5, Clemson at 6. Only reason why I have Clemson at 6 is because I don't believe in anybody from 6 down, and they're undefeated. You can make a case for Louisville. I think Louisville could still end up beating them. I also think Wisconsin's probably a better football team than Clemson, but they have 2 losses. So are they going to be there at the end of the year?
No, they're out. They're out. They're absolutely out.
One team, though, that I'm going to say a dark horse, I'm going to keep saying this.
Yep.
We're going to have to watch out for Boise State. They're 6-0. Nobody is going to compete with them in that conference. They're going to run train for the rest of the year. Probably going to go undefeated.
Yep.
Are they going to put them in? Are they not? So that's a huge team we have to keep an eye on. They're there to ruin somebody's day. Probably a 1-loss, 2-loss team.
Yep.
And them kind of battling over
and
voters' perspectives.
To go on with that too, West Virginia is potentially a dark horse too, 5-0, and they have they're on a collision course with Baylor at the end of the season. So I think that's something they can look out.
One of those Fox Sports 1 game with the terrible play calling.
God, Gus Johnson calling that game probably.
Oh,
right?
That's the worst. Yeah.
We just want to thank everybody for
wrap it up, man.
Hanging out here. Thank you for ScoreSpace for hosting us. Obviously, thank you so much, guys. Please check out the whole week's lineup worth of ScoreSpace. We got the knockout on Tuesdays at 8 p.m. with Livin 510. We got Out of Bounds with Cubs and Livin on Wednesdays at 9 p.m. Eastern. We have obviously the Real Take at 9 p.m. Eastern on Thursdays, and we got Flashback Friday tomorrow to end up your week with Snake Doctor spinning those tunes from yesteryears. Just an awesome time. So everyone, thank you so much for being here tonight, hosted by ScoreSpace. Thanks everybody on mobile, everyone that came here on the simulcast on Twitch. Thank you so much. You guys rock. We can't tell you how much we appreciate you, and hopefully you guys will be right back here getting the realest of the takes on The Real Take with MSU Fanatic and JV Gaming next week on Thursday.
Yes, sir. Take care. See you guys next week.
Thanks, guys.